Hi, welcome back to the IP Doctor. This is our third episode now, and this one's going to be a bit more informative. We're joined again by Luke Gwillym.
Hello.
As already said, he's an intellectual law property law specialist, one of my colleagues, solicitor as well. And this one is going to be all about the general product safety regulations, which you've had a lot of first-hand accounts with. So really the best person to be speaking about it, to be honest. So really, the first question that needs to be asked is, what is it?
What is it? That is the big question, really, isn't it? So what it is a new EU directive on, it's called the General Product Safety Regulation. Affects consumer products, non-food consumer products sold into the EU, which is something that affects our clients, which is why we've had experience dealing with it. It's not strictly an IP issue, but it is commercially, it's something that will be a consideration for people going forward. So it came in late last year, December 2024 is when it came into force. It was written in 2023, and it sort of replaces the previous directives that didn't necessarily deal with online sales as much as this one, because they weren't as big at the time. Obviously, like you're looking 10, 15 years back when online retail wasn't anywhere near as big. Like Amazon was around but wasn't as big, so it's looking at stuff like that, and it's bringing into an umbrella everything that wasn't already covered. So essentially, like I said, it's any non-food products being sold into the EU, which, with the exception of some stuff like medicinal products, food and feed, living plants and animals, livestock, that kind of thing, other animal products, antiques, which is a bit of a random one in that list, and interestingly, aircraft.
Okay.
Which is random and doesn't seem to fit.
Yeah, it doesn't.
But there you go.
Okay. So I know you've been dealing with it with a lot of clients, and a lot of our clients ask a lot of questions what it actually means for them. So really that's the question. What does it mean for clients, our clients, and people who are worried about this going forward?
Well, that is obviously why we've picked up on it. We've had a few clients come and say, look, since the turn of the year, we know we have to do this. What do we need to do? And crucially, like, what's it going to cost us to do, which is always the big issue. And we always try and look at stuff commercially for all of our clients, because a lot of them are smaller businesses, SMEs, individuals who don't necessarily have a lot of money to go out and spend on dealing with issues like this. So one client in particular came to us and essentially said, what do I need to do? So what do you need to do? If you're selling into the EU, essentially you need to appoint someone within the EU to represent you and be a point of contact for what are called market surveillance authorities. So essentially the authorities within EU member states who look at products and consider whether they're safe to go on the market or not. Obviously, the amount of safety precaution you need to take varies a lot depending on the type of product you're going to be selling. Like the clients who came to us, there was not a lot of concern about their things. So the work that they would need to do in terms of paperwork and stuff like that, which I'll come on to, was pretty minimal. But obviously, if you're selling stuff in that has a lot of safety concerns, like small parts, sharp edges, moving parts, people's fingers could get stuck, especially kids and stuff like that, then this is something that you might need to look at a bit more. If you're selling anything, you're going to think about these things, but it's just about sort of formalising it a little bit. So like I say, you need to appoint someone in the EU as an authorised representative. That can be a law firm. It doesn't have to be. There's companies online who are offering these sort of services now. So the main thing I would say is do come to us. We can obviously look, and I did this at the beginning of the year, looked for quotes for this sort of thing. And some of the fees were extortionate, to be honest. So that's something to look out for. It's almost as if...
Can you give a ballpark figure normally, or does it completely depend on the product?
It can depend on the product, because that determines how much work you're going to have to put into doing the safety analysis and stuff like that. but it varied really. Some firms would offer fixed fees, which we offer a lot of fixed fees that can be good for people to give certainty, but they were huge.
Okay.
Like 10,000 plus for a year, which if you're not selling a lot, which a lot of our clients don't, they're small businesses, so they're not making thousands in profit. You can't really justify that amount for something like this, which is frustrating for them because if they don't do it, it prohibits them from selling in the EU essentially.
Okay.
But then other firms would offering stuff like a monthly fee, which, especially for this client, didn't really work because essentially the representative's going on the register with whatever member state they're in, just to say we hold any relevant documentation so they can give it to the authority if they request it, and liaise with them if the authority raises any concerns, pass that on back to the client. But if you've got something that doesn't really have any big concerns, then paying a monthly fee when this representative isn't essentially going to be doing it a lot doesn't really make sense. And we said that to one of them, like, they came back and said, look, this is what it would be a month. It was like $1,000 or more, 1,500 quid per month. So over the course of a year, you're looking at 12, 15, 20 grand potentially for them to just sit on a register, not have to do anything. And then they're still charging for it, which doesn't really make sense for our clients. Like, it's a lot of money for something that you have to do, but for a lot of people wouldn't require a lot of work.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we went back and said, look, would you do fees to set up, which is fair enough, because there is quite a bit of paperwork to deal with at the start. And then look at just sort of a time spent thing.
Okay.
Which we pushed and they said they would, but even then, the fees they were asking for were more than realistically what we would want to pay or the client would want to pay. And that's something to be wary of. Like I say, there's a lot of companies out there who realise that people have to do this now. And they're thinking, this is an opportunity for us to really cash in and try and make a few quid from this, which isn't, you can agree or disagree with the approach. It's probably effective because people, if they're not bigger companies who sort of aren't that concerned with the cost, will probably just go ahead with that. But for our clients, we want to take a more commercial approach. So like I say, shop around. Referrals are good. If you know the people who are selling into the EU already, then that can be helpful. If they know someone who's good and has done it for a reasonable cost, that's definitely something to look at.
So for our clients or anyone else looking into this, do you think, because it is a big cost and a consideration for people, do you think it's better to have a strong base in the UK, be selling a lot in the UK, so then when you get to the point that you want to expand into the EU, you have a good base behind you?
Yeah, definitely.
And you've built that turnover rather than at the, say you've just started maybe just a few months in selling in the UK and then think we're going to expand. It's a big cost that could accumulate quite quickly. So it's all things that people need to consider. Would you agree with that?
Oh, definitely. Like, I would say build up a base in the UK, but obviously some clients already have interest in the EU from the outset, and there's some products that are just inherently popular in Europe. So in that case, like, it's frustrating because you wouldn't want this to be prohibitive and stop people going to sell in the EU, because if you're not turning over a lot from whatever products you sell in Europe, then it might not be cost effective to do this, because if you have to appoint someone and they're looking to charge you thousands a year or even a month, then it doesn't become worthwhile, which is obviously what we want to avoid and isn't probably the purpose of it, but it's a symptom.
Yeah. And they've also got to consider all the other costs that goes with that as well, like importing it over there, the manufacturing costs, all those things. So it all adds up.
It is. It's another thing that gets added on. And as we know, in the last few years, everything has gotten more expensive.
Yeah.
Manufacturing especially, shipping costs, everything's gone up, which ultimately has an impact on the consumer. Because if you're a business and your costs go up, then the price of your goods is going to go up to account for that, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I think you've covered it in a lot of detail there, to be honest. There's so much you can say about a regulation. But do you think there's anything else you need to add to anything you said, or anything more
I'll
clients
touch on
should be wary of?
on the specifics of it.
Yeah.
In terms of what is needed. So like I said, you need to appoint someone in the EU who essentially is just a point of contact. They sit on a register with the market authority in whatever EU member state you sell into. I would say it's not a requirement for them to be in the same state, but it's probably a good idea because it's not, the EU doesn't have one broad surveillance authority who looks at all the products. It's done on a national basis. So say if you're selling into France, it's probably a good idea to have your representative in France because they'll have a better idea of what the French authority look for and how to deal with them, rather than appointing someone in France and then you have someone from, say, Greece or another EU country, Estonia maybe, are they in the EU? When
Yeah,
it's good question. But so you're looking at that, and someone in France would have no idea what the authority in another nation is looking for. So from a costs perspective, that's probably more effective to do.
So if you were looking to sell in France and then at a later date you wanted to expand further into other territories, would you have to do this again? Or
you wouldn't need to do it again. Like I say, it's just advisable to have it in the same state. But as we see with firms when we're dealing with trademarks and stuff like that, fees between countries like vary massively.
Yeah.
Like obviously we can't file stuff directly in the EU anymore, so we go through an agent who are based in Eastern Europe. But if you're looking for the same sort of relationship with someone in France or Spain or Germany, the fees are ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like we see that especially, I mean, touching on trademarks again, but like across the world, like the fees just vary so much. Like you look at the Middle East.
Yeah, skyrocket.
Absolutely ridiculous. But if you're someone who trades in the Middle East, presumably you're a business doing okay. Like if you're based there, you'll be doing all right. But if you're someone like we have clients who look over there, and the cost just make it not worth it.
I think a lot of companies, again, this is going on a tangent a tiny bit, but I think a lot of companies look at the Middle East and just view it as not worthwhile. They might still trade over there or, sell their products over there.
Yeah.
But they just look at the cost and what they would receive from that trademark registration and don't go through with it.
Well, that's the thing. Like, obviously, it's such a massive market and there's so much money flowing around the Middle East that it makes sense to go and try and do business there. But then at the same time, whichever IPO you're looking at, whichever office, are obviously aware of how much money is around and realise that, look, if people really want a trademark here, they can pay a premium for it.
Yeah.
And firms are the same. Obviously, it's sort of generally directly proportionate, really. If the official fees in a country are high, then generally professional fees for solicitors are going to be pretty high as well.
Exactly.
Like the USA and Canada is more expensive than here generally. And the US especially is pretty strict with trademarks. Going off on a complete tangent.
Yeah.
We will get back to the GPSR.
So as you say, you appoint your representative.
Yeah.
Then what's the next stage after that once you've done that?
So the main thing is just, a lot of people do this already, obviously, but obviously product testing, stuff like that, checking the product safety, if there's anything that is a concern. Like I said, for some people, they'll need to do more work on that than others because some products are just, you look at them and you think, yeah, there's no danger there. But other stuff where small parts, especially if they're around children, then that's a concern. And that's something that you would analyse, you would write up technical documentation saying what you've done and how you're going to combat that, which can be as simple as putting labels on, like safety labels, like that say like small parts or like is the one that is there a safety label that has like a child with a thing in the mouth and like the red circle with the line through? I feel like I might have seen that somewhere, like a toddler, like going to like eat something that they shouldn't be. Maybe it should be if there isn't.
I don't know. I don't have any kids, so I don't
no,
know.
I feel like we're not the people to be talking.
If Kelly was here, she probably could give us a good answer. But
maybe. But yeah,
I'm not sure.
But stuff like that, just make sure you've done a thorough enough analysis. Write up some documentation, which will go to the representative. They'll hold that. So if at any point the authority comes to them and says, look, what technical documentation have you got for these products? They can say, we've got this, and then it saves a lot of running around trying to contact everyone, which can be a bit frustrating because in the EU now, obviously everything has to go through middlemen essentially. From if you're dealing with stuff in the UK, which is frustrating, but it's the way it is. Benefit of Brexit again.
Yep.
So with that as well, you need to put whatever relevant product safety stuff you've identified. There has to be warnings or labels or stuff like that on the products, or if it's not feasible to do it on the products, which for a lot of stuff it isn't, have labels or inserts in the packaging or have it on the packaging.
Yeah.
And you also need contact information for the manufacturer. So it can either be name, address, or just an email, as long as there's something that the consumer or anyone can refer back to you if they have any concerns, then that needs to be on there. And then obviously there's just a general ongoing obligation to ensure that your products are safe, which the manufacturer watches. There's an obligation on importers as well to notify the manufacturer if they spot anything that they think is unsafe. And then the authorised representative as well has that same obligation. So if they identify anything that is a potential concern, they have to feed that back to the manufacturer, who then takes the necessary steps, whether it's redesign, recalling products, or just updating the safety information so that it's made clear to consumers that that is something to be wary of.
Yeah. So it can be quite a lengthy process by the sounds of it. It
can be, and like I said, it all depends on what you're selling and how safe it is inherently. Like, one of our clients sold like Christmas decorations, was one of the clients who was looking into this. So for those, there's not a huge concern.
Yeah.
So that's what we said when we were feeding back. We said, look, the costs that we've been quoted for what you need and the amount of work that will go into it and the amount of work that will likely need to be done by whoever you appoint as the representative is minimal. So paying a big chunk of money a month, a year, however long, is just not worth it. So it is something to think about. And like, on the other hand, if you're someone who sells, I don't know, what's something with a lot of cutlery, I suppose, like knives, sharp edges, obviously, if you're someone like that, or something that has a lot of small parts.
Yeah, could it be like I don't know, like a kid's toy that's
like a kid's toy that has like detachable stuff.
Yeah.
You know, the kid's gonna like pick up a wheel and try and put it in the mouth or something like that. Then that's obviously something that would need a bit more thought. But in general, it's about making sure you've done enough to ensure that you've done a thorough analysis, you've identified any risks, and then you've written up technical documentation and specifications to say you've seen it, this is what you're going to do to protect the consumer, and then pass that on.
Yeah. So if they're following those steps, really, and everything.
If you follow those steps, you can't go far wrong.
Yeah.
Obviously, if there's anything else, the representatives will be there to guide you as well, because they'll have a good idea. Obviously, we're on the outside looking in, but they'll have dealt with this firsthand, and they'll be well placed to advise.
Brilliant. Well, I think that has been really good, Luke. Really informative. I think a lot of our listeners or watchers, whatever platform
that's the thing.
they're
It's
listening
not,
to this, they might find it. No, I think they will find it beneficial because
it will. It's not one that's
if they've
going
got
to
this far,
set pulses racing.
Yeah, if they've got this far into it, they definitely will have received something from it. So if you are, as I say, listening or watching, and you want some further advice on this, if you're intending to trade in the EU in the future, make sure you get in touch with us at McDaniel's Law, and I'm sure Luke would be happy to have a chat with you.
More than. Feel free to get in touch.
Brilliant. And we'll see you on the next pod. Hopefully it'll be something a bit more exhilarating. But as I say, this is still very beneficial.
Well, we're here to help people. So if people get something from it, then that's what we want.
Brilliant. See you next time.